I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside. It's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
Sometimes it takes a different approach to help you unlock your true potential. Capella University's game-changing FlexPath format helps you learn at your own pace and fit earning a degree into your life. From before you enroll to after you graduate, you'll be supported by people who are invested in your success so you can pursue your goals knowing that help is available if you need it. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Choose Yourself Network. Today on the James Altucher Show.
You know what's so funny? Someone asked me the other day, when did you know you were a good storyteller? In ninth grade. In ninth grade, I made a joke about this on stage the other day. I went on a rant about hot chicks and going, I would love to be able to have been a hot chick growing up. Like, that would have been great, just to be hot. And then as an attractive woman, you're automatically famous. You turn heads and people look at you and they want to meet you. But I had to learn how to tell a story. Ninth grade, I remember I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and it was so different than my other high school because there were no girls there. So you had to have an ascertainable talent to be able to sit at a lunch table. Like, you had to have a reason to be at that cool lunch table. Like, if you looked around all the lunch tables and one lunch table was hot and people were standing up around it, you had to have a reason to have a seat there. And for me, my reason was telling a story. I remember rehearsing my stories from religion class over to the cafeteria, being like, all right, I'm going to tell the story about the beer run that we did and came in when he jumped. And I literally was like, and then a dog jumps in. Oh, that'd be funny as shit. And so I learned how to tell a story in high school.
And this goes back to the beginning, but I think it leads to the comedy, it leads to all your career, is on the one hand, you appear fearless. Like, you'll go on stage, you'll take your shirt off. It's almost as if you don't care what people think.
Yeah.
You know, you'll fight a bear just because the producer tells you to. Like, you don't want people to dislike you, and you appear fearless. But the contrast is, a lot of it is because you desperately want people to like you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, hardcore. Brilliant. That'll be the future. I think that people will catch up to that. I know Gary Vaynerchuk does that too, but comics will pick up with that. I think soon.
I agree with you. I think the whole idea of shows is going away, and I think like you look at Uber. If you open your Uber app, Spike Lee produces a TV series on Uber. You just have to have a place with traffic, and then you can put content there.
Yeah.
Like, why does it have to be on Netflix on your remote control? So we all look at the videos on our phone and laptop anyway.
It's funny. Have we started?
No.
Okay. I'll save it.
Oh, okay. We're rolling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I got. I'm old school in this business, meaning like when I started, people would be like, I want to get a development deal. I want to get a sitcom. Like, that was the path. So getting on TV was the goal. And now I'm in the business, and now I'm like, you couldn't pay me to do TV.
No, TV. I'm going to introduce you in a second, but this is my favorite conversation in the world.
By the way, this is my favorite conversation in the world.
All right, good. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh.
The top-rated 10 TV shows all have less than 10 million views. There's hundreds of YouTube videos today. They're going to have 50 million views.
Yeah.
So, like, what is even the relevance of TV anymore?
Yeah.
And it's so much work, and there are so many gatekeepers. Like, you have to go through your agent, then a production company, then another production company, then a studio, then a channel, and then a marketing department and producers. And then at the end of the day, someone's going to give you notes, and then they could just say no,
Yeah.
and your dreams are crushed.
I took a show called Something's Burning to Food Network. I was at Travel Channel for years, and I took this show. I pitched 2 shows that I really genuinely believed in. One was Something's Burning. It's just me, a cooking show where I cook with my friends. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And they were like, "You're not a cook." I go, "It doesn't matter. It'll be good." No, but you're not a chef. It doesn't matter. The other show I pitched, and I swear to God, this is stupid, but it was Bath Crashers and House Crashers. I pitched it to DIY networks. It was called Moat Crashers, where you built people's moats. And they're like, "But wait, who wants a moat?" I go, "That's not the fucking point. The point is, some idiot's going to say yes, and we get to build them a moat. And no one's changing the channel. Everyone's waiting for the reveal. We're like, here's your moat."
Right, and it could be, if occasionally you have like a celebrity moat.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to want to see, did Ryan Seacrest really want a moat around his house with dragons?
So then they just thought I was an idiot, like a legit idiot. I started making Something's Burning on my own at All Things Comedy. Bill Burr pays for it, technically. We've got a bunch of our videos have over 1 million views. People love the show. It's probably the biggest thing I've ever done creative-wise, bigger than any of my TV shows. And it draws people. I don't get paid for it. We don't make any money on it. We just put it out there, and it draws people to my shows. People come into my show, they go, "I love your cooking show." Because I just have my friends on. I swear to God, mark my fucking words. If I get the opportunity, I will make Moat Crashers, and it will go viral. It will go viral.
I love the cooking show idea. You got to get Coolio on your cooking show.
Coolio is a pain in the ass to work with.
He's been on the podcast once before, but I've seen him on cooking shows, and it seems like he's a disaster there.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was on the one I think Guy Fieri and Rachael Ray had where they brought on celebrities cooking. Yeah. I worked with Coolio one time, and we did some show. Me, him, and Shannon Doherty. By the way, she is still hot.
That is a good combination too.
Me, him, and Shannon Doherty.
That is like the 90s cocktail. Like 1990, that is 1994.
Yeah.
Like defined. Coolio and Shannon Doherty. Okay, let me ask you this.
Please.
Did you ever watch Beverly Hills 90210?
Yes.
And right when Shannon Doherty's about to quote unquote act, if you pause right at that moment, her tongue is always sticking out. If you just have to watch any back episode of she does this in every single episode. Yeah. I've never seen anyone else do it. Her tongue, right before she's about to have an emotional moment, her tongue sticks out for about 1 second.
Can I tell you, I wonder if me and you have the same disability. I love that little things that I can hold on to for my entire life that are like, that I bring up to people and they're like, "I never noticed that. I don't know if that'll." Can I tell you my favorite line from 90210?
Yeah.
Brendan does ecstasy for the first time, him and this girlfriend, and Dylan and Shannon, or whatever her name, Brenda, are mad at him. And Brendan, they leave them at the club, and Brendan stands up they're on the hood of a car, and he stands up and he goes, "Don't go away, mad." And then the girl stands up and she goes, "Just go away." I loved that song from Motley Crue. And I died laughing. And I think about that like once a week. I think about that line.
That is a good line. I don't remember that one. I'll tell you not my favorite moment, but the way that show's changed my life. Whenever I go to California, I actually don't know the name of the hotel that it's changed. Oh no, I do know the name of it. It's the London Hotel.
Yeah. I'm staying at the London now.
Okay, well, It used to be the Bel-Air Hotel, which is where they had their senior prom. So I always stay at the London now when I go to LA. Because that's where that's where Beach 90210 had their senior prom.
Wait, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey, but I was living in Pittsburgh at the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I grew up in Florida. So anything California or New York was always really exotic. Like Florida was, like I remember this girl, Ashley Howley, came to school. She's pretty, but she wasn't like the most beautiful girl in the world, but she was pretty. But she was from LA, and everyone's like, "Whoa." And it's like so cool. Because I think, everything was always like, Florida was like a step like a little brother to LA. Like our waves were never as big. Our sharks were never as big.
Right, your towns have the same names.
Yeah, I know. West Palm we got Palm out in there. But yeah, I always looked up to LA. And then when I finally got to LA, I was like, oh, I'm living here for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Will you live there for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I will. I want to move. I played tennis with this old man, Marty was his name. I wonder if he's still alive. Right when I first had kids, started having kids, we used to play every morning, me and Marty. And he was going through a divorce, and he said to me, be very careful to make sure that you and your wife have the same goals in life about what you want to do when you retire. By the way, it was so far away from me at that time that I was like, huh? And he was like, my wife wants to spend time with my grandkids. And I said, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to be on a boat. And my wife doesn't want to be on a boat. And so we're getting a divorce. And they got a divorce. They ended up getting back together because he was like, life with my wife and my grandchildren is more important than just being on a boat. But I said to my wife recently, I said, where do you want to retire? I just thought of that conversation. And she goes, oh, I want to retire in the hills, in the mountains. I want to go to the mountains somewhere. And I went, oh no, we're going to the beach. I want to live on the beach. And she's like, I'm not going to live on a beach. And I went, oh my God. But I want to retire. I want to own, there's a bar in the Virgin Islands called Foxy's. And it's on the beach. It's on the beach, like sand everywhere.
So that does seem like it would be perfect for you. And even though I haven't yet introduced you, so the audience doesn't know, but what are you going to do?
I want to do stand-up. I want to play music. I want to make ribs. I want to make hot wings.
But your wife wants to move to the hills of like West Virginia or something.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You're going to have to convince her.
Yeah.
My guess is you're convincing. My guess is you're persuasive. You convinced her to marry you.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Look, I'm engaged right now, so I totally get the idea of having to convince someone to marry you.
Yeah.
But I have not yet had that retirement question. That's good advice.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I just want to introduce you. You're not a marriage counselor, although you could potentially pose as one. You're Bert Kreischer. You're a great stand-up comedian. You've been one for forever. I want to tell you another thing about my memory of you, which is that in 1997, I read the Rolling Stone article of you being the biggest partier in the world. I forget the title.
Number one party animal in the country.
The number one party animal in the country. I remember clearly because I remember, who is this guy who's like a 6-year senior at some Florida place? And I was thinking, I was mildly jealous. I was thinking, you know what? This probably could never be me in any alternate reality. Like, I'm just too nerdy and not extroverted enough. And you seem just in the article like, whoa, anything goes, and let's have fun, let's do whatever. And it seemed like a good life, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's that life becomes problematic. Like there's problems with the way I live my life. Like I have impulse control. I would love to be more like you. Trust me. Like I saw you had a book in your hand today, and I was like, God, I wish I could read books. Like I wish I could.
Excuse me.
It's my
your
book.
book.
I saw it in your hand.
Your book that you wrote.
I go, of course he's reading a book. And then I saw that, and I went, oh, it's my book. But yeah, that's how I didn't. Yeah, I read my book once.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I wrote it, but I had to read it for audiobook. Like I had to read.
I hate doing the audiobook.
Dude, it took me 22 hours to get through reading a 5-hour audiobook. Like 22 hours. And the best part, the reason my audiobooks outperformed my book beyond.
Yes.
But the reason is, number one, the reason is most of my fans are podcast fans, or that's the way they take in information. They do audiobooks and stuff like that and podcasts. But also the editor left in all my fuck ups. So as I spin out of control, he left it in. So you hear me at one point go, son of a fucking bitch, I'm taking my pants off. It's hot as crap in here. Is the air conditioning on? And so that's what people love about that book, is that it is completely unedited.
Well, in my audiobook, I did an audiobook for one of my books, and I started reading it, and I'm like, I just can't sit here and read like a robot off the page.
Yeah.
So I just took the chapter titles, read a few paragraphs to remind myself what the chapter was about, and I just riffed on each chapter. So it becomes a whole different product.
Yeah, it's so funny. Apparently, Tracy Morgan did that. He just sat in a room and talked. Like they had his book, and he'd like look at it, and then he'd just go off on other subjects.
That's great, and I could see Tracy Morgan doing that.
Yeah.
Particularly given your story of Tracy Morgan in this very book. So,
Yeah.
which maybe we'll get to. But first off, I just want to mention your special just came out on Netflix, Secret Time, streaming now on Netflix. It's brilliant. It's great.
Thank you.
I think it's kind of the next step after your last special, which was The Machine, because now you're getting into, you're not the biggest party animal in the world. You're a parent and a husband, and, you do these shows, and you're a comedian. You do all these reality shows. You're a stand-up comic. And I feel the special, you kind of update the audience on your life a little bit more.
I guess I had no insight on what I didn't have a point of view when when I write material. It's just I write what I'm in the middle of, whatever is going on in your life. And I guess I was talking a lot about being a parent. I didn't realize any of it, to be dead honest with you. All I know is that Forbes did a review of my special, and it was a very nice review saying this Bert Kreischer can still exist after The Machine, and he's transitioned into middle-agedness. And I was like, and then I looked at my special, I was like, oh my God, I'm like a fucking middle-aged man. That's, oh my God. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm like, if you had told me that this is what the special I would have put out when I was young, I'd be like, wait, am I not cool anymore? And I was like, no, I guess I'm just regular. But
it's a good thing. But I'll tell you, in minute 10 or minute 15, you're talking about buying your wife 7 pairs of pajamas. That's a middle-aged gift. Yeah. you don't even give your wife that when you're just married, in your 20s. You only give that when you're I don't even know how old you are. You're in your 40s?
I'm 45.
So, yeah, that's a 45-year-old husband's gift to a wife. 7 pajamas.
It's so funny. I didn't know that was a joke. And we were talking a little bit before this started about why you do spots in the city and why you do spots on the road. And I was just screwing around in the OR, in the original room at the Comedy Store. And I just told that story. I was just needed material. And I just told the story because it really is a story of me making my dad laugh for the first time. And Adam Egget, who runs a Comedy Store, I got off stage and I just thought I bombed, legit. And he was like, dude, I love that pajama story. And I was like, I was so caught off guard. I was like, are you being serious? He was like, dude, it's hilarious. I was like, really? He goes, oh my God, yeah. And I had always been jealous of there's a comic named, God damn it. What was his name? He passed away. One of the Latin kings of comedy. Shit. No, not Latin Kings of comedy, but he did the K Loco tour, I think. God dang it. Freddie Soto. Freddie Soto passed away, but he had a joke about his dad that made me die laughing. It was about his dad misusing the word irregardless. And it was such a great joke. And in my head, I was like, I love when comics talk about their dads because we all have dad issues. Like Sebastian when he talks about his dad, Tom Segura when he talks about his dad. It's just something.
Oh, Sebastian's special opens with jokes on his dad. His whole thing is Dad, we sold out Radio City Music Hall for four nights. And guess what my dad says? Is there enough parking?
Yeah. He goes, one of my favorite jokes about, I told you about Sebastian this right before I shot my special. I was like, I love the joke he has about his dad going, he's like, I remember telling my dad I wanted a dog. And his dad's like, the neighbors have a dog. You don't pet that dog. Pet that dog for 30 minutes. But I love those jokes. And so when he said that, I went, oh my God, I have a joke about my dad. I was like, I got really excited because I just don't find my parents funny, at all.
But you in your book and in your specials and on Joe Rogan, you talk about your dad a lot.
I do.
When you meet Will Smith, so you're doing stand-up for 6 months.
Yeah.
Let me clear my throat.
Oh, I'll take another double Tito's and soda if anyone's wondering. In a big glass like this. Lots of ice. I love getting drunk. I love it so much. I really
we wanted you to feel at home.
I hope I never. I'm very cognizant of my drinking so that I can always drink because I don't want to have a problem with it to the point where people are like I would have not drank normally, but when you say you want, that's what we talk about. When you read that article and you were like, oh, I wish I could live like that. That is one of my biggest problems. When you said, oh, I want a vodka, I was just gonna have a beer and sip it. But when you said, I'll take a vodka tonic, my tits get loose and I get excited and I go, oh, nice. Oh, we can have a cocktail. Oh, the park's right there. Oh my God. Oh, I'm going to get a steak tonight. Oh, I get excited about life.
Okay. But what if you find out you have a drinking problem.
Well, I probably do, but like
won't it affect in the long term, your long-term health, your
well,
ability?
that's why I say I'm very cognizant of it, is that I don't drink at home. Like
Really?
when I'm in LA, I don't drink at home. And, but like, even still, like I run triathlons and marathons and 5K. I run a lot. I exercise a great deal, but on like something like this, like I knew this was a wash. When I come to New York, I end up partying all the time because it just is New York.
Like what'd you do last night? And by the way, we're going to circle back to your dad because I have something I want to ask you.
I'm sorry.
But no, what'd you do last night?
Last night, I did a podcast called The Gist with this guy. It was a really amazing podcast. The guy was an amazing interview. I was really impressed with the interview. And then I came in, I went to do the bonfire with Big J.
Who does The Gist? Do we know who does The Gist?
I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he was a fan. If you haven't done it, you should do it. He's an amazing interviewer. What? And then I went and did Big J's bonfire with him and Dan, and Mike Vecchione showed up, and we all started drinking Tito's. And then
Mike Vecchione just had an album release.
Dude,
he is so funny.
Can I be honest? It's the best album I've heard in probably 17 years, since Skanks for the Memories.
I had to go up once following him, and it's really difficult because his timing is like the best in the business.
Dude, his Megabus joke might be one of my favorite jokes I've ever heard. And made me really think, I'm not writing enough. Thank you so much. I'm good. Thank you. It made me realize I'm not writing enough. I'm not writing. Like we were talking about this outside once again to bring up our outside conversation. But I get really nifty. Where my brain is focused on a joke is making sure it's over. Like making sure it's got an ending.
But that's when people, that sort of tells people it's time to laugh and clap. And if it's a good joke, they'll not only laugh, they'll clap. So, because they'll sense you crafted a beautiful ending to a story. If you're just telling set up punchline, they don't clap, they laugh. So maybe that's why you like that clapping.
What happened was...
And you see this in your book, by the way. You crave you want people to like you.
Yeah, you have no idea.
But that is both a driving force as long as you temper it. It has to be almost like a pet you keep around, but you don't let it drag you around.
Yeah, exactly. What happened for me with I don't know. Do not know what question you had asked, and I don't know why I'm talking about this. But there's a joke in the new special about time travel, about my daughter's deodorant. And I had wanted this conversation I had with my daughter where she basically asked me about time travel one night while I was high. She didn't know I was high. She asked me about time travel. I had wanted that to be in my second special I did for Showtime. And I couldn't cram. No. The Machine special for Showtime. I tried to cram it in. I couldn't cram it in. And then one night in Calgary, I kind of like accidentally messed up my material. And I told the deodorant part. And then I told the deodorant part and then getting high and then the softball story and realized I never finished the beginning. And so I told I literally chopped it in half and told 2 bits in the middle and then told the end of the time travel at the end.
Fitting.
And then I realized the deodorant thing and they applauded and it caught me off guard. I went, what are you clapping for? I never had anyone clap at a joke I told. And this kid he's been doing comedy for like 4 years was like, that was amazing. Because he was like, I knew it was over. And I was like, what? He goes, I knew that it was over and you were going to start something new. It's a really cool feeling. And I went, and that's where I'm stuck right now is like every fucking bit I have is like, and ta-da.
Well, it's interesting because on the one hand, you can say, all right, that's a skill you needed to develop when you first started.
Yes.
Was the ability to, I can't clear my throat off. Take some water. Nice pause in the podcast.
Mike Pesca. He's a great interviewer. Do it. You should do it.
Mike Cass, we'll have to listen to that too.
Yeah.
I'm never going to clear my throat. So we'll keep going.
Just drink vodka.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to the vodka. Hey, can I put my mic on the t-shirt? Oh, I got it, and then I'll need help when I fuck it up.
Bro, what's brilliant, if you have a guy like this for like, if you block out like a 2-hour shooting period where you go out and do stuff with him, You bang out your promos for the week for your stand-up dates. You promo your God damn it!
That's a good idea.
I want
We're
this
sharing
guy.
ideas.
Yeah, just 2 hours. Just 2 hours, like once a week. You could probably twice a week. Do Thursday and Tuesdays, and you could just murder content.
That's a good idea. We're gonna have to do that.
If you film it, we can edit it.
What's
So-
that?
If you film it, we have a service that edits it.
Oh, Jesus, that's my problem. Is I'm a little micromanagey, and I like to edit my own shit. Like I like to shoot and edit my own stuff.
Well, because you're gonna know your humor, and the humor in video, the humor comes out of the editing.
yeah.
Okay, so your joke that you told in Toronto and your feelings about it, you had to develop that skill of you were always, I feel like from the beginning when you started doing stand up, you were great at telling a story, and you had so many crazy stories because you were the number one party animal in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you had so many like just crazy stories, but for stand up you had to like punch it up. And I feel like that was a skill you probably spent a long time learning, but now that you're so comfortable with it, it's almost like you're, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it's almost like you're naturally saying, okay, well, I don't want to be in my comfort zone for too long. What's the next step? So what do you think will happen when you stop telling these nifty ending stories? What's the next step for your development?
I've actually put a lot of thought in that. It's one of the reasons I love Bill Burr as a friend. He's a great guy, but I really respect him as an artist because what I noticed he did, and I don't know if he cognizantly noticed, but I've known Bill from when he did clean material, like when he just worked clean and he like sounded like Brian Regan. And what he decided to do was challenge himself and go in new directions. So I've actually thought I would like to be able to act out more on stage.
Which you do in this special much more than The Machine.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Secret Time, it's 3/4 you're acting out.
Yeah.
The Machine, you're telling
I was
stories.
super high energy. When I started, I was all act out. And then I was
And by the
like,
way, just to define, act out means you're doing voices. Instead of just saying, this is what my dad said, you'll get your dad's voice, you'll get your wife's
like Demetri
voice.
Martin's got no act out in his material. It's great material, but he doesn't act out much. Sebastian, on the other hand, would be
It's all act out.
all act out. So I would love to increase that more. I would love to. I really, honestly, part of me feels like I might do like a one-man show because I have all this material about working on Travel Channel, but it's very exclusive. It's like my material, I think what I'm good at is making you feel like we're all in a living room and hanging out and I'm just telling you stories. But when I do my Travel Channel stuff, it really is almost like 1%er. Like you're like, well, did I tell you about the time I was in Vietnam? Or everyone's like, I've never even, like it takes them a second to go, what? Wait, what?
Yeah,
like,
but the thing is, and this is how you leveraged your party animal skills into comedy, is that the audience, you're throwing a party on the stage, and the audience wants to come to the party. I notice in your specials, the audience laughs at stuff that's not even really that funny because they just want to join you. And I'm not saying this is an insult.
No. I know. I don't take that as an insult.
You're telling a story. You don't even intend every word to be funny. But when you say, all I did was blurt out, I am the machine, everyone laughs. It's not a punchline.
There's no punchline.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Like, of course, our buddy Bert Kreischer is up on stage and then he's telling about talking to Russian gangsters that he's so nervous. He says he's the machine, and then they welcome him in with open arms. Like, that's funny to the audience. And the way you say it, like your shirt's off and you have the right bellow in your voice, and it works.
It's really interesting you say that. I've noticed that a lot where like in the machine story specifically, like there's lines that I go are not funny, but they get a laugh, and you're like, am I muscling that down their throats? But then you're like, fuck it. As part of the,
part of humor is persona and stage presence, which it's almost like you borrowed from, let's say, the 10,000 hours skill of being the best party animal ever.
That's a brilliant fucking statement. I feel like, what's so funny? Someone asked me the other day, when did you start? When did you know you were a good storyteller, or something like that? In ninth grade. And I made a joke about this on stage the other day. I can't remember exactly, but I went on a rant about hot chicks, about something about hot chicks. I forget what it was. I should watch that video. But something about hot chicks, and going, I would love to be able to have been a hot chick growing up. Like, that would have been great, just to be hot. And then you're as an attractive woman, you're automatically famous. Like, you turn heads and people look at you and they want to meet you. But I was like, I had to learn how to tell a story. Ninth grade, I remember I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and it was so different than my other high school because there were no girls there. So you had to have an ascertainable talent to be able to sit at a lunch table. Like you had to have a reason to be at that cool lunch table. Like if you looked around all the lunch tables and one lunch table was hot and people were standing up around it, you had to have a reason to have a seat there. And for me, my reason was telling a story. I remember rehearsing my stories from religion class over to the cafeteria, being like, all right, I'm going to tell the story about the beer run that we did and came in when he jumped. And I literally was like, and then a dog jumps in. Oh, that'd be funny as shit. And so I learned how to tell a story in high school.
So part of it is, and this goes back to the beginning, but I think it leads to the comedy, it leads to all your career, is on the one hand, you appear fearless. Like you'll go on stage, you'll take your shirt off. It's almost as if you don't care what people think. You're in the machine, your gut is sort of hanging out a little bit.
Yeah.
On your reality shows, you'll fight a bear just because the producer tells you to. Like you don't want people to dislike you, and you appear fearless. But the contrast is, a lot of it is because you desperately want people to like you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, hardcore.
And when do you think that started? It started at the age of 12. So what happened at the age of 12?
I don't know.
I don't know either. You're gonna have to think about it.
Is that what?
I'm just guessing. 13, 12.
I don't know. I really honestly don't know, but I desperately, I have been well aware of that, especially in like the comment section on Instagram. I don't like negative comments. I
delete them.
Really messes me up. So like I stopped reading them altogether. And then today Gary V put out this video of like, you need to be reading every comment. That's how you know what to do next.
That's bullshit.
I was like, you're wrong. You're actually really wrong. You're really wrong. And you're being misleading because I don't think you actually read your comments. And you probably have someone read your comments and then they give you feedback, but you're not doing it. And I'm doing it on the ground level. And trust me, it fucking sucks.
It's painful.
Yeah,
because the only people who leave comments, by the way, are people who are going to leave negative comments. The people who love you, they just, when's his next special coming out? I'm going to read his book. They're doing intelligent things.
Yeah.
Not commenting.
Some people leave
2
positive
a.m. on
comments, like
Instagram.
friends and family members, and like other comics will leave positive comments, and some people leave like definitely positive comments. But what I've noticed is it is a lot more beneficial for a person trying to get people to their channel, to their page, if they leave something really negative and then people reply. Like, and they'll leave like the most volatile negative comment, and then people will then go find them and be like, oh, and so I was like, I wish I could block comments.
You can delete them.
Yeah, but then once you delete someone's comment, they know they're in your head, and I don't want them that privilege. So I just don't read them. Like if you're negative, I go, oh, remember, and then I go, okay, so what's the payoff? Do I really want my ego stroked by reading positive ones? Because that's really shallow in essence, to go like, oh man, everyone's loving me. And then versus that one time this woman's like, why would you say that about Chelsea Handler? And I'd be like, it was a joke. It's a joke. And I say that I like girls who have a hint of cunt in them. And like it's a joke. And then you're like, oh, and then you watch her fight online and you're like, oh, I gotta block you. I can't have you in my life. Like you're just, whatever you're spewing, I don't want in my life. But you've hit the head on the nail. I desperately crave acceptance and people liking me.
What did you think initially? Because look, a lot of people deal with this. I deal with this. What do you think initially caused you to think, I need to add to myself like a storytelling ability in order for people to like me? Like, why did you initially even think that?
I mean, that's not even I have no idea. I used to, and I still do. This is a hardcore secret time. I had to cognizantly stop doing this. I used to talk to people in high school and maybe in college. But in high school, my friend called me out on it. I would tell you whatever you wanted to hear, even if it needed me to lie to you. Like if you were like, I'm trying to think of the perfect example, but say you were like, Missy, whatever Missy whatchamacallit is, a slut. She broke my heart. I'd be like, oh yeah, and then I would tell you whatever. I would want you to be happy, so I would tell you whatever you needed to hear about that girl Missy, even if I had to make something up, which I thought would have been based in fact. Even if I had to make something up to make you happy. And my buddy Blake called me on it one night, and we were at his dad's house, and he's like, I can't trust you because you're telling me things, you're lying to me. It was about this group called EPU, right? EPU is a group in our high school called a pluribus unum, and it was almost like a fraternity. And Blake and I had said we weren't going to do it. And then the older guys came to me and they were like, hey man, we want you to do EPU this year. I was like, okay. And then Blake pulled me aside and he's like, you're not doing EPU. And I was like, no. And I lied to him. I was like, fuck those guys, dude. They're not, we don't want to be a part of those guys. And he was like, cool, just so you know. And then they came to me and they're like, you're definitely doing it. And I was like, oh yeah. And I joined this group and I lied to my friend and I just lied to him, but I wanted him to be happy. And then when he called me on it, I said, I didn't want to tell you the truth because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. He was like, yeah, but you hurt my feelings now. I said, yeah, but I don't know which one would have been worse. And but I had to make I remember I must have been a junior or sophomore in high school, and I had to stop. Like I would say to my stuff like, hey, when you see ... don't bring up that. And then I'd get there and I'd be like biting my fucking tongue. But yeah, it is a crazy concept that you have pointed out to me that I definitely, and I've known this for a long time, but I definitely have a need for acceptance.
But think about that tension, right? Like there's a couple tensions there. There's the tension of needing to be liked, so propensity to say yes when you don't want to. Then there's the tendency to live a double life because some people you're saying one thing, some people you're saying the other. So it's like you have to keep track of two lives and it's hard enough to live one life. But that tension creates humor. Like your story of like, I don't know why on that reality show you describe in the book where you're doing, difficult jobs like an exterminator and so on. In the episode that never even aired, the producer says, you've got to fight a bear. You already had like 2 concussions, like a broken shin, whatever.
Broken ribs, yeah.
And so they don't give a shit about your physical health. Yeah. They kind of want you to die in the series.
Yeah.
And you said, okay, I'm going to fight a 9-foot bear.
Yeah.
And they did not give you any guidance at all on how to fight a bear. And you're just like fighting a bear.
Dude, I used to want...
That knocked you out.
I used to want approval, like Hollywood approval, meaning like maybe I put it around fame back then. But like, I remember people saying like, I called my agent the other day. And I was like, who calls their agent? Like, I never called my agent. I always waited for them to call me. And like, people would be like, I have a relationship with my manager. And I was like, I can't even hear back from my manager. And so I think in stuff like that, I just wanted people to be like, it's interesting because whatever my flaw is in that, there's an opposite side. And I could say names of guys that I'm friends with that were difficult to work with. I was so fucking easy to work with because I would do whatever the fuck you wanted. Dude, I got out of the cage with a great white shark. I got out of a fucking cage. Like,
right, so you had to build this ability also to conquer fears.
Let me tell you,
your fear of flying, that was the funniest joke ever when you're skydiving, and your main worry is that the lap of the Marine or whatever you're sitting on is going to get hard.
Yeah. My dad called me right before I did that. I was driving to Irvine and my dad called me and I said to him, he's like, you getting ready for production? And I was like, yeah, I'm just so you know, I'm going skydiving with Rachael Ray. And he yelled at me. He got mad at me. He's like, God damn it. You're not a fucking, stunt man. You're a comedian. This is the problem. And I the first time I've ever spoken back to my dad, meaning like where I corrected him and I said, listen, Dad, I'm calling you because I need your support. I'm not calling you to reiterate things I'm already saying in my head. I need your support. Like I need you to tell me it's going to be okay. Like I already feel everything you're saying. I need you to be like, you're going to be fine. Everyone skydives. No one, like very rarely do people die. And my dad was like, Okay. I'm gonna have to call you back. And then we hung up, and I didn't talk to him for like a week. And then I went skydiving, and I got this email from him. I wish I could fucking find it. This email was probably the nicest email, the greatest email my dad's ever sent me. And it was just saying, "You're my hero. I can't believe you can conquer your fears and do stuff you know are dangerous, but you can rationalize this." Like, it was the greatest fucking email. I was in South Dakota when I got it, and I read it to my crew of shooters and sound guys. We used to all drink after we shoot in my room, and I read it to them, and like one of the guys started crying, one of the girls started crying. They're like, "I wish I could get a letter like that from my dad." But yeah, my need for acceptance had driven me to a lot of the stuff I did on television.
And it comes across again as fearless. Like when you take the signal of taking your shirt off at the beginning of a stand-up special is that you don't care what people think. When the flip side is you do care what they think, and you're somehow conquering a fear in the middle there and creating humor. So it all kind of creates this psychological cocktail that results in your stories.
I didn't even know I was fat, to be honest with you, until my buddies started fat shaming me.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So, I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power, so how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/advance. That's oracle.com/advance. Oracle.com/advance.
Tom Segura started fat shaming me as a joke, and he was fatter than I was. I didn't even know I was fat. I'm being dead serious. I knew I was a little overweight, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it the way that everyone else did. I swear to you, on both of my children's lives, when I shot that special, one of the Netflix special, I was like, bro, I look good. I'm being dead serious. I thought I looked really good. And then when Netflix put up that billboard of my belly, I was like, that's not me, right? And they're like, no, that's definitely you. And then I was like, holy shit. Like, I think part of me is a little bit oblivious. One of the things that you said earlier about me wanting to be the guy that lives the life of the party and is like the number one party animal, I think part of it is a need for acceptance, and part of it is like this pure obliviousness to the way people perceive you. Like, not even like, I go, I don't have a filter. But I really don't have a filter, and it's the reason I don't do observational comedy, because my observational comedy would be stuff that only I experience, and I'm shocked you don't experience. Like, we do a thing in our house called unassisted sleeps. That's when you go to bed without drugs or alcohol. My wife counts them for me. She's like, wow, you got 5 unassisted sleeps this week. And I was like, oh, thanks. Other people are like, I'm sorry, what? You don't just read a book to go to bed? And I'm like, oh, no, you don't do that? Like, so I think there's an obliviousness of the way you live your life that goes hand in hand with that need for acceptance. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's almost like you were describing, you saw Tracy Morgan do stand-up at the Boston Comedy Club or the Cellar, and he's describing about how we all relate to,
who remembers finger fucking by the handball courts? Yeah. And we're like, well, none of us did that. That was a common shared experience in his life, and he just thought everyone did it.
But I thought just the fact that nobody relates to it is hilarious. Like, I would have been laughing at that.
Yeah, the fact that no one did it.
Right.
Oh, I got a pretty dick. You can suck it with the lights on. And you're like, wait, who recognizes that? Like,
but then you telling the story is even funnier, because we get Tracy's joke, and then you're sort of his voice again.
I wish I could drink water the way you drink water. I can't do anything slow. Like you just took a little sip of water. I murder things. Like the second I take a sip, I just drink everything.
That's why I'm not a good drinker. It's because I can't just like chug beer.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I sip it.
I chug beer to an alarming rate. Like people, when I kill a beer, people are always like, they're like, really? I go, oh yeah, you don't take a breath before you drink and then open your throat and just let it pour in and not breathe? And they're like, what?
See, that's a joke.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
There's no punchline.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
So you have like this real natural storytelling ability that is funny. You have funny stories. You almost put yourself in funny situations, and then you have funny stories out of it. The stories themselves are funny, and then the way you tell it is funny. And then in your last special, I think you have a lot more punchlines and a lot more act outs, which makes it even funnier. The special is great.
I think I've grown as a comic. I think I oddly enough, and I think Ralphie one time said this to me. I think he was saying, the question isn't how good's your special. The question is how good's your next special. And because you do see people that put out amazing specials, and then you never hear from them again. And they just, everything, like Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison's one of my heroes. But man, he did one special, and that was it. Everything else was girls on chains making phone calls to people. It was really a letdown. And so I feel like I'm getting better as a stand-up. But I feel like, once again, it goes back to Bill Burr. I watched him get better as a stand-up. And it was like, oh, just because you put out a special, that doesn't mean you retire anymore and you just tore that material. You got to do the next one. Yeah,
because now you say, okay, you've kind of, initially you were a storyteller and the stories were funny. Just like you just told a story now, we laughed. And then with this special, you're calling them a little too nifty, which I think understates the fact that it's really hard to do to close off a stand-up comedy bit in a full circle with callbacks and a nice ending that people are going to clap and laugh to. That's a really hard skill. And then I'm just trying to figure you're saying you're going to improve now, not by reversing and not doing it. How do you move forward past it so it becomes better?
Well,
what's the way you're thinking about it?
I have a new 52 minutes that I'm touring right now and try to figure out. I feel like if you could, it's like Attell and Chappelle. It was an old New York comedy story. Is Dave Chappelle's critique of Dave Attell was that there are 7 types of jokes. The problem with Attell is that he's always looking for the 8th joke. The 8th type of joke, the one that you've never, the style you've never heard. And I think that's what I'm doing right now is I'm like, what is that thing? Like I'd like to put more act outs in. I'd like to get more character-y in my stories. But like, what is it?
Let me ask you 2 questions. I'll throw ideas at you and you can tell me how you do them or not. Let's look at Chappelle's specials. So he's a master storyteller. He's almost like you, a storyteller rather than a standard
Kicker in the Pussy is the best joke I've ever seen.
Best ever.
Best I've ever seen.
And
best I've ever, I fucking fist pumped when I heard the punchline. Like, I'm not even joking. I can tell you where I was. Great jokes, I'll tell you exactly where the fuck I was. I was in West Palm. I was walking down the street. I just had lunch. And I was watching Chappelle's special in the restaurant as my bill came. And I walked out on the street down the A1A. And I had it in my headsets. And I said, so I kicked her in the pussy. Damn, I'm dope. And I went, oh yeah, bitch. I did not see that coming. I love that joke.
Yeah, it was great. And I think, if I remember correctly, he used the line again later on in the special. But also, was that the one where he's also meeting OJ? That was a different one of the 4. But he takes a story and he'll interweave one bigger story inside a bunch of smaller ones.
Yeah.
And so it's not so nifty. It's not so, okay, here's a story's beginning, middle, and end, and then I'm on to the next story. He's got like the OJ one, he has the whole special. He's like, I met OJ 4 times, and before the end of this special, I'm going to tell you all 4.
Yeah.
And so he's just then he tells a story, and then unexpectedly, he's like, the second time I met OJ, and then the show ends, and you don't think of it. Everybody's clapping. He walks off, and then he's come back. Wait. I forgot to tell you about the 4th time I met OJ. So we've all forgotten it already, but he still brings it back. And that's kind of a way to kind of break that niftiness, the way he does it.
I think What I think would be really interesting, and I think Ari Shaffir is doing this a tad bit, is to go overseas and see the way they're doing them in England. Because, people can, and I think I've probably given this special more press than I've done my own special, but Nanette was a really interesting special to watch. That's not what I do, and I probably won't ever make something like that, but to watch someone do it differently is what you need to do. Like, to watch Chappelle's belly room special and go, okay, I don't do that. I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. But to see the way that people are doing it different. I had toyed around with this special. This is really stupid. But I had toyed around with the idea of, because obviously when I go on stage, everyone still yells the machine, of opening up the special. Go, when I was 22, I got involved with the Russian mafia. Here's how it happened. And then weaving in my new hour to me telling the machine throughout an hour. So I'd open with that and I'd close with, fuck that bitch, this is Russia. And that is how and then I'd weave all my material through that.
Right, because right now, the way you tell that story that I've seen, you just tell the story. And so twice you use the word, fuck that bitch, This is Russia. And then the story's over and you're on to the next thing. And yet this is actually a really complex story. Like, you never really address, so just to summarize real quickly, rather than letting you summarize it in a much more funny way, you go to Russia, you for junior year or whatever.
Second junior year, you're in a class, but instead of like really hanging out that much with the class, you hang out with these Russian mobsters. Yeah. And at one point, your class and the mobsters are on the train, and you and the mobsters rob the entire train, including your class. And I never quite understood, didn't your class, and you kind of said your class hated you, but you never really explained, how did you ever make up with your class? Did you give them their money back? So I find this more interesting than the story itself. So what happened was, this is really bizarre. We go to Moscow. For those of you who've heard the story, if you haven't heard the story, I apologize. But we ended up robbing my class on a train. And so,
by the way, just the way you said that was funny.
Yeah. And so we went to Moscow, and I thought I was going to be kicked off the trip. I thought I was going to get sent home. I thought I was going to be in a lot of trouble, which was problematic because I'd also planned a trip through Europe after this trip. And then the teachers came to my room in Moscow. We had to take a trip. We had to take the same train home to St. Petersburg. And they said, so we've talked to our people in St. Petersburg, and apparently they said that it wasn't the worst thing that could have happened. And so they've asked that we let you party with them again and kind of keep them at bay, because these are real gangsters and they don't have laws. And so you're gonna have to party with them on the ride home.
They were almost asking you to be the student interface to the mob.
So when I got on the train again, same Igor, and they're like, the machine. And I was like, I'm back. And I partied with them the whole ride back. We didn't rob anyone on the ride back. They just took pictures of me shitting. And then I know it was like bizarre to them that a guy would let them do that. I mean, you got to realize these guys had grown up in Soviet Russia. And I had grown up in the exact opposite. It was like Tommy Boy. So like I was taking a shit, and I said, grab my camera. And he was like, what? And he took a picture of me shitting, and they were howling laughing that I could sit on a toilet and take pictures of me. So we did that the majority of the ride home. We drank, we passed out, I think, at one point. We get back, and then the whole class, we have a class meeting. So our floor, I don't know why, small details, I'm obsessed with them, but like our floor was 2 wings, 2 hallways, and in the center by the elevator was like a little gathering area, but a little bigger than the average hotel, because I think this had been a hotel at one point in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, but it was a big gathering area. And there was a place where the women, they're called devushkas, would clean it was like their office was there. They would clean our rooms. So we had a whole class meeting by the elevators, and everyone was voicing their opinions about how they felt being robbed and that I should be held accountable. And Igor stood up. Now you got to remember, Igor's
at the student meeting.
He's at, my Igor from St. Petersburg is at the student meeting. And you got to remember, all the teachers are there. All the classes there. They're voicing their opinions. And Igor stands up and goes, fuck every single one of you. Fuck, machine, pойдем. Which means let's go. And I was like, what? He goes, pойдем, we drink. Fuck you. You could have been fucking murdered on this fucking train. You have no fucking idea. This man saved your fucking life. I will not stand here. And we walked out of the meeting. And we went down to the little cafe. We had two, they used to sell gin. And it said gin on the can. Just said gin in black writing. It said gin. And it was like gin and tonic. And we sat down and we had probably our most meaningful conversation ever. And we sat and drank. And he was like, it was really upset. And he was like, this isn't America. This is Russia. These kids are holding American standards in a place of Russia. He was like, you didn't do anything wrong to them. You didn't do anything wrong. And I was like, well, I kind of robbed them. And he's like, no, but he goes, you have no idea. These guys could have done anything they wanted to your class. They could have held you at gunpoint and killed someone and not been held accountable.
But when you later like ran into a classmaate, let's say even on the plane home.
It's happened. It's happened as an adult.
And so what did they say to you?
I think obviously time heals everything. And most of them think it's funny. And by the way, a little sidebar to this, that's the reason that story went viral, is one of my classmates was the first people to comment on the Facebook video. She commented and said, this story is 100% true. I was in this class. He fucking robbed us.
And so when you were going, let's say with that girl, when you were going to say, look, I'm sorry, give me your pocketbook.
No. So we robbed them at night while they were sleeping.
Okay.
So that, I mean,
Makes
maybe
it better.
I think I don't know if I tell it in the story, but we robbed them while they were sleeping. I don't know if that takes away or adds. I'm not certain. I didn't do it cognizantly, like do it for a reason, but we did rob everyone while they were sleeping. Little heads up, if you want to rob a train, that's how you do it. Wait till everyone falls asleep, and then you jiggle the door to see if it's open. If it's open, you slide it open. Someone crawls in underneath, pulls the bags out into the hallway. You empty out the bags, and then you slide them back in. And that's how we did it. And then if anyone woke up, Igor would spit vodka in their face. And so, yeah. And so, but oddly enough, when I backpack all through Europe after that, I knew how to rob a train. So, like, I never got robbed. And it was a big thing, is getting robbed on overnight trains. And I never got robbed.
See, this is a life skill you learn from these crazy stories. And this itself is like, I feel like, again, going in that extra deeper level in the story. You could interweave through other stories, Chappelle-like almost.
Dude, I could do 1 hour about Russia. Like, I glance over things, like graze over things so quickly. And when I tell that story, like we stole a boat one time. Like that's a story. I mean, that's a legit 10-minute story of us stealing a boat. It was so fucking bizarre that day.
Do you sometimes now put yourself in situations thinking, okay, I'm going to go into this crazy situation because I know I'm going to have a story to tell about it. I'm going to have a stand-up story to tell about it afterwards.
Yes, but not yes. Yes. The answer is yes. Yes. I feel like I know we were talking about this earlier, but I know that for a fact I ran the marathon thinking it would turn into a bit, and it just turned into an Instagram moment of people. That's like the most viewed video I have is me running the marathon. On Instagram.
Did you train for it?
No training. Just did it.
That's a good idea.
Drank the night before, got out there, and I just bragged to everyone.
But I think all of these things are about, okay, how do I get out of my comfort zone in my writing? How do I get out of my comfort zone in my fears? How do I get out of my comfort zone in terms of how people view me? Like, they don't view me as a marathon runner, so let's do this because it's going to be over that edge.
But I think what's interesting about the way that people are taking in content and the way you are as an artist these days, and I use artist loosely, is that like Ari Shaffir and is one of my good friends, and Tom Segura and Joe Rogan. We all do this thing, Sober October, where we don't drink or do drugs in October, and that was a really big kind of like shifting point for me, where I realized, oh, people like to follow along these days. Like, they just like to like find out what's like, check in with you every day and get excited when they're like, oh, Bert's at yoga, and so. They all three of them, and I think collectively I can speak for them in this behalf, but I think they all thought I was overusing Instagram, and I was putting myself out there too much, until one day Ari and I are at the airport and we go in to check in. I bring him into the first class lounge in American because Ari would never pay for that shit. I bring him into the lounge, and a 57-year-old black man checks us in, and he goes, oh shit, the machine. And he goes, oh, what's up, Ari? And Ari's like, huh? And he goes, I just watched you guys in Atlanta the other day. That was fun, man. You guys looked like you had a good time at that liquor store. And Ari was like, how do you know that? And he goes, I follow his Instagram. That's my favorite Instagram to follow. He was like, oh, it's good seeing you. You're going to get a double Tito's and soda? And And I was like, yeah. And he was like, take care. Can I get a picture when you leave? I was like, yeah. And Ari sat in awe. And I'm, by the way, you know me, I love hyperbole. I love to make things bigger. I'm not joking when he sat in awe and he went, dude, I think Instagram might be your television show. Like, I think the way you're running your social media and the way you're doing this, that's your TV show. And so that is why I started doing things like the marathon, the triathlon, going to Paris, like where I go, well, I'll just live a cool life on the side and try to put myself in. But I do that with material. I took my family to Hawaii, and my wife was watching me, like try to write bits, like watching me. Because I'd taken them ziplining, and in the middle of ziplining, I just went, oh my God, this is a fucking bit. And I literally, pen and paper, and I started writing stuff down. And I was like, oh my God, this is a bit. My wife's like, honey, be in the moment. I was like, no, you don't understand. I was clipped into a Vietnamese family. We don't know them. Like, this is going to be a bit. And she was like, oh, okay. And so now we go to Hawaii. We went to a dolphin encounter. And immediately I'm like, swimming with dolphins is like going to a strip club. I'm writing bits. Because it's like you show up and the trainer's like, ladies, we have customers. And they come out with that fake smile like, ee, ee. My daughter's like, can we touch them? And I was like, I already know this answer. No, don't put your fingers in their holes. Like, you're writing a bit.
That's great. And it's all based, it's an experience combined with a metaphor or a story from when you were a kid going to strip clubs or whatever.
Yeah.
So how did you, in your process of writing the bit, like, this might just be the natural reflex of doing stand-up for so long, but how did you kind of come up with a metaphor that dolphins are like strippers? Just the metaphor writes the bit.
Well, it's super sad when you do a dolphin encounter. That's the way it's super sad when you go to a strip club, because you realize it's patriarchy, I guess, in essence. Is like, and I just witnessed
So there's like some emotion, like, oh, when's the last time I felt this emotion? Oh, I remember feeling this at a strip club.
Yeah, and immediately I went, and then all of a sudden it's like untangling a necklace. The second you see that one in, you're like when you told me the thing about the Ashkenazi, I immediately saw the necklace untangle.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that because so my first idea for you was that kind of telling stories in this Chappelle interweaving kind of way.
Yeah.
Like the joke you mentioned was your favorite. And the second one was, so I described this joke to you outside, and I said, I said to you, I felt like I should have added to it. And right away, you came up with this absurd addition to it. And I don't see a lot of absurdity in your specials, but you could also add more absurdism. Like, obviously, you're great at it.
Well, I was jealous because I don't write the joke you wrote. Like, I'm not good at that. Like, that's not my, I guess, skill set.
And yet you added it, though.
But that's my skill set. Is like, I like that. I like the imagination. I like the playing out in my head. And I do that. I do that in the moment when I was swimming with the dolphins. I start imagining all the different scenarios that could have happened, and I start really kind of like, and I think part of me, I have to reel myself back in to making the bit. Like, one of my real things I did on this special is like honing in the honesty, because a lot of times for me, I would go absurd earlier. I would go absurd before I would go honest. And I think this one, I tried to keep it as honest as possible. But as soon as you did that, I went, oh, I know where I want this bit to go.
Yeah, you basically had, without telling the joke, you basically had this Hasidic Jew from the 1700s going on a student tour of Nigeria.
You have no idea how much I already love that bit, because what I don't do that you do probably very well is there is nuance that you could add to that guy, his study abroad program. Like, there's nuance to like some comics do it really well. I really rush through a bit, meaning like I broad stroke things so much, but like little things that would an Ashkenazi Jew would have with him on a study abroad trip to Nigeria in the 1700s, and what life would be like for that experience, and to then tell that story and then end it with, and that's how I got here. I love that. I love that immediately.
Well, it's interesting because I was trying to figure out, you point out, you looked at all the possible scenarios and then you kind of hone in quickly on the funniest one. And I think that's That's a hard skill. Like at the time, in the moment when I was saying this was a joke, I was just riffing in the moment because of the particular audience I didn't realize I was be speaking in front of, and I couldn't think of how to go deeper into it, and you were just like, boom.
Yeah, but sometimes I think that's the beauty of being friends with comics is like it's that you're inside your own forest, so you can't see the forest. Like I told a joke one time that I did not think was funny at all. We do this new material night at the store on Tuesday nights. Jeremiah Watkins runs it. It's one of my favorite shows to do. And in the back are Rogan and Segura, and I'm up on stage, and they'll just call things out, and you got to write a joke based on it, which I love. I'm better at that than I think I am at straight up stand up comedy. But it's just free form. For me, it's just literally like a Rorschach test, where you just whatever you think. I'll tell you what I think. And this kid goes, "Take your shirt off." And so I would take my shirt off, and he goes, I said, "What else?" And he goes, "Anne Frank." And then I go, "Oh, I used to think Anne Frank and Helen Keller were the same person." And he's like, and everyone starts laughing. I just thought everyone had mixed those two up. And I was like, "Oh no, I did." And I said, "I found that out at the Anne Frank house. They're not." And I told the story of me and my friends going like, and by the way, it's asinine to me that it's why I don't do observational comedy. The premise is that my friends had said, it was right after Russia, they're like, "We should go to the Anne Frank house." And I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll get a bag of weed and laugh our dicks off." And they're like, "What?" I was like, "I've been hearing jokes about this chick my whole life. We'll put a plunger in her toilet." And they're like, "Huh?" I go, yeah. And they're like, "I don't know if you can go into her bathroom, but you can see the closet they kept her in." I was like, "Oh, they kept her in a fucking closet?" And they're like, "Yeah, the Nazis were looking for her." I go, "The fucking Nazis were looking for her?" I was like, "How many times did this chick roll snake eyes? Can't see, can't hear, can't talk, locked in the closet. Nazis are looking for her." And then I was like, "Wait, how did the Nazis not find her?" Banging around in the closet. I get off, by the way, people are laughing, but I'm oblivious to why they're laughing. I get off stage and Rogan's like, "Dude, that's a bit." And I went, no, I everything's new. And he goes, no. That is a bit. And I had taped it, luckily. I had taped it. And I went to Omaha the next week. I'm telling you, when I started the thing, I literally was shocked anyone was laughing. But sometimes that is how it comes out.
But sometimes it's like, I think it's like there's no filter, right? You have like these kind of, you probably didn't realize you have these connections in the brain connecting Anne Frank to Helen Keller, and then just someone shouting out Anne Frank, and you had no filter. Like a lot of times people would be nervous and freeze, and I think you're just like, bleh, like and it rolls into a joke because then it goes into your stand-up skills, and you have these connections between Anne Frank and Helen Keller, which is an odd connection, and then you tell why. But that's something that's a joke.
I found out why, by the way. It's Anne Sullivan. I used to confuse Anne Sullivan and Anne Frank. And I used to confuse Helen Keller with Anne Sullivan. Like Anne Sullivan was I saw The Miracle Worker. And so Helen Keller wasn't the name that stuck out. For some reason, it was Anne Sullivan. So when I first heard about Anne Frank, I confused Anne Frank and Anne Sullivan and then just made that one person.
So there is a connect the dots, and whether or not you really confuse them, you still were able to kind of like connect those dots to act as if you confuse the two of them. Because I'm sure at some level, if you thought about it, you wouldn't confuse them.
I would have definitely, it's like you hear those two stories at the same age, so it just melted in. But yeah, like there's a bit that I really don't find funny, but my wife is like, "That's the funniest fucking story about, I have a rash on my cheek that I got from this Vietnamese kid. We were in Vietnam, and this kid wanted, they don't have beards there. Like men don't have beards. Vietnamese people just don't grow facial hair like that. So I came out of the jungle. We went to this village, and they thought I was a fucking werewolf. And so I scared the kids. They'd never seen a man with a beard, especially like a loud American man. And so I started giving them Skittles, and they were rubbing my beard. I'd give them a Skittle, and they wanted to rub my beard. And then every time they rubbed my beard, I go, "Rrr," and they would howl laughing, right? So this one kid has got this fucking dirty hand. And I'm like, "Oh, not him." And then he rubs my beard, and I growl, and immediately my face is itching. And I've had this rash on my fucking face for now probably like 2 years. And so I tell it, this is the part my wife finds funny. I show it to my mom, and my mom just goes, "Oh, honey, you have herpes." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "That can't be your fucking solution, Mom. And who gets herpes on their cheek?" And my mom's like, "Oh, we all have herpes. We all have herpes." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so, part of me is like, I don't know if my mom knows what herpes is, but but things like that where my wife, or like I said with the pajamas joke, with Adam Egan going, bro, that's the funniest joke. And I'm like, that's funny? Like, I think those are the times where for me, and I think once again, it goes back to like me in college. I was like, how can you be funny? I know I can be funny in the moment, but I don't know how to be funny on stage.
Well, hey, you know how to be funny on stage.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but I think what happens is, and the reason why maybe you don't go into the 50-minute story is you're telling the story at a college party where this is where you develop your skills. You're telling it at a college party where everyone's drunk. You have to get through the story in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Or else you lose your audience.
Yeah.
So it's not like everybody's sitting around a TV watching your special when you're 18 years old. You had to hurry up because you were afraid to be ignored.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That is, you nailed that. Well, you really like. I was supposed to do therapy today. I should have had my therapist Skype in with us so that he could have been like, I actually have a note on that.
Well, now we're gonna get back to your dad though. That's the initial tangent.
Yeah. What was the dad thing? I cut you off.
You were saying you don't bring up your dad much or your parents much in jokes, but when you tell like the Will Smith story, so you're doing stand-up for only 6 months in New York, and the remarkable happens, which is that you're so funny, and Will Smith's production company is so appreciative of your stand-up comedy, they get you a development deal where you're pitching TV shows with Will Smith. He invites you to go to the movies, and the whole story is like fascinating because it's kind of celebrity gossip. But then your dad's the comedian in the story, the way you tell it. Your dad basically says, oh, he's going to try to be gay with you.
Yeah.
And then you say you're a homochondriac and
Yeah.
describe what that is. So like your dad kind of actually is the impetus for a lot of the humor in some of these jokes that you tell. And you rely on him almost like that guy Justin Halpern who wrote the book Shit My Dad Says. It's like you rely on him to be your straight man almost.
Yeah. It's
What was it like growing up with him?
he didn't like. I don't know the right way to say this without sounding bad, but like he didn't like my personality. like the part of me that people enjoy. My dad, it makes him very uncomfortable. Like
what did he do for a living?
He was a lawyer, still is a lawyer. Very humble. He's a very, very humble man. He never would brag. You'd never hear him brag about anything.
But he's stern with you.
He was a lot sterner with me than ever with my sisters. Yeah. Like he was very stern with me. He says, and I believe this, is that I remind him of his dad. And he lost his dad when he was 13. And so I think there's a part of him that was afraid to connect with me, maybe.
Or maybe he didn't want you to turn out like his dad.
Well, his dad died of a stroke when he was like 42. And I think he thought I was going to die of a stroke when I was 42. And by the way, I think Patrice died of a stroke when I was 42, or maybe 40. And it changed the way I went to a cardiologist. Because of Patrice's stroke, I went to a cardiologist. I got on blood pressure medicine. I sadly, once I got on blood pressure medicine, I started living more unhealthy because I was like, oh, we're taken care of. But yeah, and so he was a very, he didn't like to show off in me. It was a perfect example of me and my dad's relationship. When I was in first grade, I was playing second base for the Yankees in Pinto baseball, right? Denny Sullivan was my coach. Teddy Church was my first baseman. Jason Sullivan was a shortstop. And the bases were loaded. It was an evening game on like a Thursday, and a fly ball was hit to me, and I caught it in the air. And I took the ball, I spiked it, I ripped my shirt off, and I started dancing. I'm in first grade, right? Now, I think now
Seeds of greatness already there.
As a parent right now, I would pay money for that experience, to watch that. I would definitely pay money if it was my kid. My dad was humiliated. He was like, you don't fucking do that. Jesus Christ. He's like, you catch the ball and then you just, oh. And my mom loved it. Denny Sullivan yelled out from the dugout, put some mustard on that hot dog. And everyone laughed even harder, right? I was oblivious. That was my natural personality. My natural personality was to I succeeded. Spike the ball, take my shirt off, and start dancing. That was me. That's Bert. That is Bert. Like, that is who I am, is right in that kid.
But
right
so
there.
let's say your dad was like, go Bert, right in that moment. How do you think it would have changed how you would have done it later, if at
I
all?
would have ended up being some fucking porn star, Instagram whore. Like, I probably, I don't know. I'm sure that you need that disapproval to become a well-rounded human being, or you just become obnoxious. Like, if I had lived my whole life spiking balls and ripping my shirts off, I mean, I guess I technically do half of that, but like, I'm sure you'd be Deion Sanders.
Well, but
I mean, by the way, I don't mean to slander Deion Sanders, but like, I remember when Deion Sanders came out, my dad was like, hated him, just like, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, can you believe this? Can you believe that prime time? Like, and then adversely, my dad, when Deion was playing two sports, my dad was like, man, he is an amazing athlete. Now, cut to Tiger Woods comes out. Immediately, like, there's all this showmanship behind him, like he's like a flashy, and I assume my dad won't like that. And so my dad calls me, he's like, are you following this Tiger Woods thing? And I say what I think would appease him, and I say, yeah, but fucking, I'm not a fan. And my dad's like, oh, buddy, you're wrong. You're wrong. This kid is all talent. This kid is amazing, and the words he's speaking is gonna. You'll see. What you got to watch is, and then he told me, he's like, you need to become a fan of his now so you can enjoy your life for the next 20 years. And I went, really? Like, you can never. It's my dad's one of those people. You can never, whatever he says to you, you can never figure out why he's like. I've never
What
been
did he
able to
mean by
judge that
that?
guy. Is that we're about to experience one of the greatest golfers ever to live. And if you get on board with him now, then you will enjoy the next 20 years of your life watching him play golf. But if you hate him today, then man, golf's going to suck for you forever. And it's so funny. I became a Tiger Woods fan that day. And I am a ride or die motherfucker for Tiger Woods. Like, I love that guy. I want success. I'm a fan. I had a guy come up to me one time in West Palm, and he goes, his shirt's off, doing a meet and greet. And he's like, I need 2 minutes of your time. And I went, and the bouncer's like, bro, you got to leave. And he's like, 2 minutes, Bert, 2 minutes. And I was like, sure. And he goes, okay, I'm a fan. Do you know what that means? And I was like, oh, yeah, I get it. And he goes, no. When you succeed, I get happy. Like, when good things happen to you, that makes me happy because I'm on your team. And I was like, okay. He goes, I don't think you're realizing what I say. Like, if you got a TV show, I would feel like I got a TV show. Do you know what that means? He goes, I got nothing in my life, man. All I do is I have you guys that I listen to on podcasts. And when good things happen to you, I feel like I joined the right team. He's like, I'm a fan. And immediately I went, I'm a fan of Tiger Woods. Like, when bad shit happened to Tiger, I got bummed out. When people talk shit about Tiger, it bothered me. And when I see him succeed, like this last championship where he was coming up at dude, I'm getting chill bumps talking about it. Like, I got excited. I was in Target with my kids watching Tiger finish out his round on my phone going, yes, like that. And then I connected. I went, dude, I know exactly what you mean. He goes, I'm a fan. And I was like, bro, I'm a fan of Joe Rogan's. I'm his friend. I'm a fan of Tom Segura's. I'm his friend. But when Tom succeeds, when Joe succeeds, when I heard Roseanne was going to do Joe's podcast on her first interview, I fucking was like, fuck it. Like, I got excited. And it's okay to be a fan of shit. Like, I like being a fan of shit. I'm a fan of Bill Burr's. When he goes on Conan the other night, I don't know if you saw it like a week ago, and murders, I cheer. I like I'm in my bed going, oh, God, way to get it. And then I run into him the other day, and I'm like, dude, you murdered on Conan. Like, I get the experience to be able to share with my heroes and the people I'm a fan of. I get to share with them in that experience, you know? And like, I'm really lucky.
I mean, that's part of the benefit, too, of doing a podcast. But I get to call anybody up,
dude,
that I want, and I don't call up random people.
Yeah,
everybody has to be someone that I want to talk to.
Dude, I love it. Well, I like Rob Riggle.
You do a great podcast.
Rob
you
Riggle.
Call up your friends.
I got Rob Riggle on my podcast. I think Rob Riggle was like, I don't know what the fuck this is gonna be, and I was like, bro, like, I'm a fan. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm a fan. I get to talk to you about your service in the military, which amazes me. Because I feel like we're the same guy, but then I go, I would have never done that. Like, I would have never served in the military selflessly, and you did. I want to find out where we veer. And by the end of the podcast, I got to be dead honest with you, I think Rob Riggle was like, bro, that was a fun time. I was like, yeah, no shit, I'm a fan of yours. Like, yeah, it should have been fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Once again, I'm fucking my dad. I don't know. My dad, something with my dad.
Well, okay. We'll close off in a nifty way. Your dad, he didn't approve of you throwing the ball down.
Yeah.
You're still going to do that for the rest of your life, but you're just not going to do it arrogantly. You're going to do it thinking from all angles how people are looking at it, but you're still going to do it. You're going to take off your shirt, not because you're the most beautiful demigod in the world, but that's just who you are. But then you're going to worry about what people think, and that's where the humor is.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
I guess that formative moment, if we're gonna put this in a nifty bow, was at that time when I spiked the ball and I was being my authentic self, and my dad self-corrected it just a tad bit, and he was like, "Yo, life will be unbearable if you are this arrogant asshole who dances in front of people every time he succeeds."
because you're clearly not arrogant. Like your story about when you introduced yourself to the Russian mobsters, where you had this whole hello planned, and you were so nervous at the final second. All you said was "I'm the machine" in Russian, and it's because it's a mixture of the fearlessness you had there in first grade, but maybe they're gonna disapprove.
I think
Maybe they're gonna kill me.
Yeah, well, I think that it's I think there's what I was trying to say to them, honestly, was I'm the man, which is "Ya machina," but I said "Ya machinu," and it just means I'm a car. And so they were like, huh? And then that's what made them laugh, is like, they don't have slang. So if a guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, I'm a car," you're like, what the fuck? And so it just made them laugh. And I just kept saying it louder and louder, not knowing what I was saying all night. And then Igor translated it for me. He's like, "No, you're saying you're the machine." And I was like, "Oh, I thought I'm saying I'm the man." Like, I take a shot and go, "I'm the man." And they were like, "I'm the machine." And they just thought that was fucking hysterical. My dad, to this day, I'll tell a story. My dad goes, "That didn't really happen, did it?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." Like, even the Will Smith story, my dad's like, I didn't say he was gay. Like, and I was like, "No, you said it." And my dad's legit words were, "He's going to queer you." That's what my dad said. "He's going to queer you, buddy." And I went, it's like with the Tracy Morgan story. Like, Tracy, but just to be fair to Tracy Morgan, has come out and said that story never happened. But okay, that's totally fine that he says that. Me and Tony Woods were there. Tony Woods and I both were there. It definitely happened. But I say this to my dad, and I say this to Tracy Morgan, if he ever hears this. Like, if I'm that good at just making up a story, I just write fiction. Like, what the fuck am I doing stand-up for? Like, if I had a talent that I knew that I could just craft a story, that the Tracy Morgan story might be the best story I've ever
That's an amazing
told
story.
in my entire life. If I could, at 5 months of doing stand-up, if I knew that I could write that at 5 months of doing stand-up, bro, I'd be huge.
So first, I'm going to give a shout out to, there's a clip of you telling that story superbly on the Joe Rogan show.
Yeah.
So people should just YouTube Joe Rogan, you, and Tracy Morgan, and it's a great version of that story. Plus, that story's in your book. Great story. And it's a punchline at the end. That's a boom at the end.
That was before I realized. I mean, like, it's just how the story happened, That's just the story.
Right, but it worked so well as setup, punchline, story,
Bro.
Acting out absurdism.
It might be, I mean, no joke. And by the way, I'm not funny in the story. I don't do anything funny in it. That, in my opinion, that story might be the best story ever told. Meaning, like, I'm saying that might be the best story that I've ever heard. Meaning, like, even me telling it,
it's biblical just, of Tracy Morgan almost.
So, and by the way, I know that he's on a different, PR campaign but a lot of us young white comics only knew him as like the guy that would fuck with us. Like, we didn't know him. Like, so like every guy had their Tracy Morgan story. Every one of us did. Everyone had run into him and just had a great Tracy, and we'd share them. Ryan Sickler shares his. Everyone would share theirs, and I
think Joe Rogan collects them because I hear lots of Tracy Morgan
Morgan is the funniest human being ever. Like, I'm not even joking, and he's one of those. He's an example of what I'd say that maybe that I'll pay him a compliment that I'm about to pay myself. So it's not the fairest thing in the world, but like sometimes when you don't know you're being funny is when you're your funniest. Like, Joey Diaz is the funniest human being when he doesn't know he's being funny. Like, he just says something to you and you go, that's a bit. And he's like, huh? But like Tracy Morgan's like that. He was hysterical just being himself. Like, watching him go on morning radio and morning news and just, he was the most entertaining guy to follow on YouTube when YouTube just started. Like everyone would just put up anything he did, and man, that guy was gold. You ever hear his Doug Flutie speech?
No.
It's my favorite speech ever.
And so does he write material like that? Like how did he just come up with it on the fly?
Tracy Morgan naturally is just one of the, and once again, I don't know Tracy Morgan. Like I've met him one time. It was the one experience I have. I shared in the story that he has disavowed and said it never happened. I think he got attached to the fact that it was PCP. And I think that's what bothered him. When in fact, I tell in the story that Tony says he doesn't smoke PCP, but I'm still anxious about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what bothered him. But honestly, I think he's just naturally God made a comedian. Like no one ever talks shit about him. He just is perfectly funny in every angle. His Doug Flutie speech might be the best speech I've ever heard. Like it's him telling a group of comics about how they're like, remember when we were young and they'd say you got to improv on shit? And he says, yeah, you got to improv on shit. And in the middle of saying you got to improv on shit, he improvs a speech that his high school football coach gave to his quarterback for his high. It's fucking amazing. Yeah, he's fucking brilliant. I love that guy.
So let me ask you, like you were doing stand-up for 6 months.
Okay, one beer. Yeah, keep going.
You were doing stand-up for 6 months, and then
Heineken.
This happens
Please.
to basically nobody. You suddenly have a TV development deal.
Yeah.
So, which means basically they pay you to sit around and pitch ideas, none of them which might happen.
Yeah.
And then you're in a studio pitching an idea, or you're in Fox, I guess, pitching an idea with Will Smith by your side. And how do they say no?
They didn't. And I think everyone said yes. Yeah. And then, by the way, this is when he was the biggest movie star in the world at that time. He still is one of the biggest movies, but at that time, he was the biggest movie star in the world. Like, I think Wild Wild West was coming out.
Yeah.
Like, he was huge. Man, I learned a lot from him. He taught me a lot about how to sell a TV show.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the book, but you don't say what he taught you about how to sell a TV show. That's where you skipped over where you did a large brushstroke.
Yeah, I think in part the one thing he taught me was something it's like it was just witnessing him do it and I think this also comes with age in this business is he would go into a meeting. I mean, the one thing he told me across the board, he's like, just be yourself to the loudest you can be yourself. But I'd watch him go into a meeting and just ice the room, just like smooth it out, like almost like, like putting your hand down a sheet and getting out the wrinkles. He just do that to a room, just smooth it out.
How do you do that?
It's an intangible. Like I can't teach you how to do it. I can't show you how to do it. But you can see it when someone does it.
I'm trying to even imagine. Like, give one little anecdote up from a meeting where he boom, took control.
So and we go into NBC, and so when Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had been on NBC forever, right? And he goes in, and it's maybe 12 people in the room. Everyone that could be in the room is there for the Will Smith pitch. Will spent, and this is going to sound cheesy and but he's spent time talking to people that I didn't know. But there was the president of NBC at the time was at the head of the table. He spent more time talking to the other people than he did that guy in the first 2 minutes we're in the room. Just really I remember he used to do this thing where he'd give you a hug and he'd say one love. At the time he was saying one love. But it was just that he just is so charismatic. It's almost like he'd find the connective tissue within seconds of you and him, and you didn't know how he did it.
I think part of it's the celebrity aura.
I think it's Will Smith. I think that's innate in who he is. When you go, oh, he's got that it factor. Will just has it. He could get you to do anything, and he was so real. That's the other part is you have an idea of what he was, but he was just such a real person in these moments. Watching him be himself, it just throws you off guard. You're like, whoa, shit, I got to be more me. It's all the people I know that are successful, like Norm Macdonald, man, dude, that guy has that Will Smith factor. When he goes into a room, he just owns it. And he does, and he's not trying. He is not trying at all.
I think because it's almost like he's transmitting on a different frequency And so everybody has to tune into his frequency to even understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully I'll figure it out and do it for myself. But man, you see the guys who have it and you see the way they do it, you're like, oh shit.
So then though, you pitch the show, they all say yes, but it doesn't happen. So like at some point, even despite Will Smith being involved, it's like they put on whatever they put on that year.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't do it. And then I got a deal that immediately the very next year from CBS. And Will called up. He was like, I want to produce it. And I was like, okay. But then what happens is people get into a bidding war about, we'll give you $125,000 to produce it. And so you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll go with them. And so you just end up, it got bid out. But yeah, I didn't do it. Television, that form of that scripted television just sucks. It just sucks. I mean, I'm going through it again right now, and it just sucks.
How come you're going through it again?
I've developed probably ever since I started with Travel Channel, probably every single year I've developed with a network, and it just sucks. It's what we were talking about earlier. Too many fingers in the pie. If you could just make what the fuck you thought was funny and put it out there, so many more people would respond to it. I think that's why Louis was so good. And I hate to bring up Louis. I know a lot of people hate him, but I don't hate him. I like him, and I'm glad he's getting back on stage personally.
Yeah.
I think like Michael Ian Black, who by the way is one of my most liberal friends in the world. I
can't believe Michael Ian Black was brought into this, was
Can you
trending on
that?
Twitter
Can you
over
believe
one
that?
tweet.
Over one tweet, and basically saying, I believe in a path to redemption. I believe in a path to redemption. That's what he said. And people are like, how dare you? How dare you?
I was astonished because it's like the spigot of free speech has been turned off in the U.S. And I don't care
100%.
about alt-left or alt-right. I don't give a shit about anything. But just if Michael Ian Black, the most milquetoast person on the planet, can't say something, that's a problem.
Yeah. Oh, it's a real problem. And it's a real problem. By the way, I would argue that the alt-right hardcore lunatics are identical to the alt-left hardcore lunatics. And it's just the middle ground people like us, but like,
But we're not allowed to talk. There's like I think there's 100 million silent moderates who can't talk anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. And which makes me irate. The point I was saying about, I don't even remember what I was saying about Louis.
You like Louis because...
But Louis did Louis, and he took less money to have creative control. I think all of us would do that. I just want him, I don't care about the money I'd make from a sitcom. I want it to be good. I want it to be awesome.
Yeah, and like look at Louis as structurally as a sitcom. It wasn't like a 3-act thing.
No.
He'd have almost an 8-minute show and then a 15-minute show within the same 23-minute show.
Yeah.
Like the structure of his show was absurdist and insane, but still had enough of a storyline that it wasn't completely absurdist.
I was in development so many times, and then one day I just went, I'm going to write my own sitcom. And so I wrote it. And then because I wrote it, it got heat. Like everyone's like, whoa. And then like my buddy was like, let's just make it. Fuck everyone, let's just make it. But then everyone starts getting into it, right? And meetings start getting, you give the script to your agent, your manager, and they're like, whoa, we like this a lot. Let's set up some meetings. And then you start thinking, okay, we don't have to spend our own money to make it. We can have someone who'll pay us to make it. And we'll tell them we want creative control. So then you take a couple meetings, and then they all pass on it, and then you lose enthusiasm for your own project. By the way, it was a stupid script I wrote about, like, everyone wants like a family comedy out of me, and I'm sure I'm able to do that, but like, it just isn't creatively what I'd write personally. So I wrote a time travel script about my daughters coming back from the future to save my wife's life. Like, my wife's going to die in a car accident, and they come back from the future to save my wife's life. They do it by way of just showing me a sign in a window on the first day we get our pool. First day we get our pool, I'm recording, and I turn around, there's a sign going, don't let her go. And I'm going to edit my video that I'm going to post to Instagram promoting my tour dates, and I see the sign, and I'm like, what the fuck? And my wife walks into the room at that moment and goes, all right, I got to go. And I was like, well, hold on. And we start a fight, and she doesn't go. I get kicked out of the house that night. She's like, we're fighting so bad, I go over to the bar next to my house, Pat's, and my daughters show up, and they're 28 years old, and they're 28 and 30. And they're like, she didn't go, did she? And I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, she didn't go, did she? I was like, what? And they go, the sign, you saw the sign. And I was like, wait, I did see the sign. Wait, what are you talking about? And they're like, Dad, it's Island, Georgia. We came back from the future to save Mom's life. And I'm like, shut up. And they're like, yeah. And they know I'm obsessed with time travel, right? And they're like, Dad, how cool is this? And I was like, that's great. I go, wait, so what does it change? And they're like, what do you mean? I go, like, what, like the butterfly effect, like, you saved Mom's life, but what does that affect in the future? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, well, the rules of time travel. And they're like, wait, there's rules to time travel? I'm like, oh my God. So it's a script of me traveling with my 2 idiot fucking daughters throughout the future and throughout the past as they try to correct history's wrongs. And so it's like Bill and Ted's meets fucking Everybody
Back to
Loves
the Future.
Raymond. Yeah. And so and I wrote it and we got excited about it because it's funny. And like the second episode, they go back to kill Hitler, but they instead create Hitler. Like they go back to his art school but they don't know what he looks like without the mustache. So they start killing all his friends. And then one day, and then at the fucking end, they realize, oh shit, that's Hitler. And instead of just taking responsibility, they blame it on the Jews. And so it was just, it's like no one would ever greenlight that. No one would ever do it. But me and my buddy thought it was funny and we were going to make it. And then when Hollywood gets interested, you take all the meetings and then you lose interest in your own project because you're like, well, fuck it. Maybe no one would have liked that anyway. But you know, like that's.
But how do things get rejected now that like Netflix is spending $13 billion a year, Amazon's spending $13 billion, Hulu spending, Apple spending, Facebook spending, YouTube spending, and all the channels are spending?
Yeah.
Like, don't they need material from like professional comedians?
A lot of like, I'm not calling out anybody, but a lot of people don't want to be told they're wrong. Mm-hmm. So like what we like and what we're doing is working. And a lot of people don't want to be told they're wrong. So what I wanted to do with this show is my main plan was to create a whole podcast and webisode, like a website around this show. I wanted to make this show. I wanted to do a podcast weekly that would allow notes from the fans. So I'd put out the script online for the week. They could then read it and submit notes if they were like a Patreon user, right? And
I like that.
It's like $5. They could then be a part of the notes process. We accept all notes. We then work the notes into the episode. We do a table read. That would be one podcast. We do the show. It would be audio version only. We do a show. That would be another podcast. And then we do a Talking Dead, like wrap up of the show. And then the show would go out. The show would go out the week of the podcast. And you could watch the show online.
So what was the problem? Why did anyone pass? Why didn't they at least like give you a budget to shoot the first episode?
Well, because I can only say like a couple of the networks were like, I was going through numbers about like what my podcast gets and how many downloads my podcast gets. And they just didn't want to accept it. They were like, that's not real. And I was like, no, my podcast is bigger than any show you have on your network.
Well, and not only that, you'll go on Joe Rogan's to promote it. You'll go on a bunch of podcasts.
Joe's podcast is bigger than anything anyone's creating ever. Right now, he is bigger than anything anyone's creating. So like when you do on Joe's podcast, that's like doing the Tonight Show back in 1982. Right. So like people don't want to know those like they just don't want to agree with it. They're in a business where their business model set up to be, you know, our ratings are good, our ad sales are good. I mean, I'm not to shit on television, but I'll take 2 seconds to. I create and put out my podcast for under $1,000. That's what it costs to make my podcast. I reach so many more people than I've ever reached on a television show.
Like a reality show on the Travel Channel, how many people will that reach?
Maybe 100,000.
An episode. And you've done...
by the way, 100,000 in the demographic, yeah. I think that would be a very big success for them right now.
So right now.
I'm not shitting on Travel Channel. I love those guys.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just saying
it's just the nature of television. It's like the same thing for any cable channel. So you've done so much reality TV. You're still kind of, I think, playing around with it. Do you want to do more reality TV? I have a few shows that I want to do, but I just want to make. I don't want to. Like, what do you want to do? I want to do a show called Stranded and Branded, where I go on a desert island and I'm sustained only by corporate integrations. So like that's a show I want to do. Like that you have to find sponsors to drop ship you. Sponsors drop me boxes of shit, and that's how I get by. And I think that's funny. It's a great. I mean, I've talked about it on my podcast. What I want to do. I mean, like. The problem is I would still work for Travel Channel, but like I look at the infrastructure and it gets frustrating. So then I go, okay,
So something's burning. No one makes any money. Who gets paid are a couple cameramen and an editor. That's it. And a sound guy. Sound guy's from Spain. And so that's who gets paid. So for like roughly under $5,000, we're making a TV show that's getting 1 million views online. Then you look at, if you include a network, you won't get as many views. You won't get as many viewers as just
never.
Across the board. You won't get as many viewers, but you got to pay for executives, their secretaries, their cars. Just the overhead is so big.
Why don't you get like just one sponsor for the cooking thing on YouTube, and then it's like
Sponsors haven't figured that out yet. Sponsors haven't figured that out. Like Barilla Pasta doesn't understand that it makes more sense in a boardroom for them to go, guys, we're putting $20 million into the Food Network. And then they go, oh, that makes total sense to me. I got the Food Network in my house. But as opposed to them going, we gave $50,000 to Something's Burning. And they're like, what is that? They're like, it's a comedian and he cooks, but he's not really like a really good cook. But like, it just doesn't make sense.
And he has 1 million views from within the United States. Here's the demographic. We get the exact analytics.
None of that matters. They don't think it's real. Let me tell you something. What's insane is that I sat with Travel Channel. I sat with their ad sales team. I sat with the whole team. This is in 2010, 2009. And I said, what I'd like to do for a very minimal dollar amount, I'd like to start a podcast network for Scripps, for Travel Channel. I want it for Scripps in general. I want a home improvement. I want it to be a lifestyle podcast network. So we'll take all the hosts, through our already integrated ad sales, meaning like I've got Travelocity is already one of my sponsors from one of my TV shows. They paid for all the shows to be made. I want to go through and grab all your talent. I want to create podcasts for them. We can do it for very cheap. And I explain how I do my podcast. For $500, we can either buy the hosts their own H4N, at the time is what it was, Zoom recorder, and a microphone, and they can do with guests. But it'd be very simple. And I said, and I guarantee you, we going into ad sales and going into the upfronts, if you stand up and you go, we have the #1 lifestyle podcast network in the world. We reach, and by the way, the numbers were growing at the time. We reach 1 million unique listeners every month, every episode, and no one, they were just like, podcasting?
Meanwhile, they bought Midroll for like $60-70 million.
Yeah, dude. We're at the infancy of this business still, I believe, because I think people are going to see the way we're doing sponsors and podcasts. I think, first of all, integrations are the next level. I would love an integration on my podcast. Some brand to just come in and go, we're going to buy every episode. It's Tito's Vodka, or it's Budweiser, or it's combos. It's every episode. We just want to be all over your man cave. We're going to give you $1 million. Just everything. We're all over your man cave. We'll put a fucking banner up in the back. But what I think is happening with, YouTubers are now going into podcasting because the money in YouTube's dried up. And like it's hard to get money. Casey Neistat has a podcast. H3 Productions has a podcast. And they are killing it because these are kids. Grace Helbig has a podcast. They're kids with a money brain and artistic views. So I'm telling you, man, we are at the infancy. I probably will never do television ever again in my entire life. I will just make content that my fans like. And I just got to find a sponsor who realizes, all right, men 18 to 47, that's who I'm trying to reach. Bert's talking to them already. Let's find a way in. That's all I got to do. And here's my hiccup. I want a guy like that to follow me around. I want to shoot content more. I want to be able to put content out faster. And I want an ad sales guy whose passion is selling to go in and find sponsors and bring them to me and go, hey man, what can you do with ...
What if you were to go directly to Travelocity right now and say, this is what I'm doing? Or what if you were to go to, I don't know, some cooking brand or something? And
I don't know if they'd get it. Mm-hmm. It's like, part of...
What if you were to go to Patreon and say, look, we're doing this together. You guys are with me. You're going to be sponsors. Anybody who donates a certain amount per month, you're going to be on the show. We're going to visit your town. We're going to cook with you. Do it on Patreon. Like Jordan Peterson makes $80,000 a month on Patreon.
Yeah, I don't know. But part of me is it's just me. That's what's a little frustrating is it's just me. Like I shoot all my videos for Instagram. I post them all myself. I put out all my tweets. I do everything myself because I'm a little bit of a micromanager. And I think part of it is I don't want to like split away from my money. You know, get like Rogan's a perfect example. Rogan has a 20,000 square foot compound where he has all his shit, but his podcast is doing so well he doesn't have time to do anything else. So man, I want that, and I want to just shoot shit nonstop. I want to shoot a sitcom. I want to shoot. I want Open Tabs to be a bigger show than it is already. I want to do my podcast. I want to do everything. I want to put content every single day. As a fan of content, I know how excited I am when new stuff comes out. Like I love the show First We Feast, right? Hot Ones on First We Feast, where you eat 10 progressively hot wings. I found that in its infancy, and I've been a fan. And every time a new one comes out, I get the same feeling. My tits get loose, and I go, "Oh, here we go." I love it. The one he did with Michael Cera that just came out is maybe the best interview Michael Cera's ever done because Michael Cera has no clue what the show is and his guards down.
That's funny because he's got such a classic personality. I can't imagine him on that show.
Dude, it is such a great interview with Michael Cera. It is such a great interview. I just want to put out more shit. There's a show I want to do called One Bottle with Bert where me and a celebrity have to drink one bottle of booze together, which by the way, I can do by myself. But don't get afraid if you're a celebrity. But it would be cool to see Charlize Theron on that. Just put back booze. Like I just want to create content. That's it.
So okay, so you must have an agent, and I know agents are, they're waiting for you to come to them with a prepackaged deal all ready for them to just put their signature on. But can't an agent say, "Hey, I'll take some of the financial risk with you, and we'll do this"?
No one's willing to take the financial risk. It's me. I'm the one that I got to Dane Cook it and put my money where my mouth is. And I think that's. Like I just had a meeting with a really big company, and I told them what I wanted. I want my own fantasy factory. I want to make my own stuff. I've proven it works on a very small level, but I think with more money, I could really increase it and make it bigger. But then once again, it's like then you start cutting your money in half. Like part of me goes, I just need what I need. My wife goes, just be patient. I need this special to be good. I need people to like it. I need to go on tour. I need to make more money, and then I can take money and make my own thing. Like if I was Rogan or Burr, oh my God, get the fuck out. I would be, I don't know. I mean, I know how much money they make, a lot. Like I'm guessing. But like I just think if I made that, like Sebastian made $13 million last year.
Yeah, just on the road.
Bro, $1 million. I'd take $1 million right away.
No
right
TV
now.
show, no movie. Just on the
$13
road.
million. I put $1 million and I just make content. I make content. Oh, fuck yeah. I make a movie. What am I, like, I do something and just put out stuff every day. I'd love it.
All right, well, we'll have to figure that out. I'm going to think about it.
Let me tell you something.
Because I think we think about the same thing all the time, that traditional TV, not that it's bad or good, it's just divided up into so many small components now, and everybody's going to YouTube and Instagram. I don't even know if YouTube's going to be able to fight off Instagram with IGTV and Instagram stories and so on. And Instagram's extending the time limit on video. That might be the only network. We don't know. Facebook Watch. For the first time, I'm actually watching videos on Facebook on my app.
The things that work. Can you imagine if you did with your stand-up what networks do with television shows? And you came up with an idea, and then you brought it to a group of people that technically have never done stand-up, right? But they've been in comedy clubs. They've been around comedy clubs. They've been to them. And then you brought them your idea. And then they were like, I think it would be better if can you put that, instead of that, your wife, can you just say it was a black woman that's trending very well?
Yeah, no, you learn almost instantly that that's a bad idea.
Yeah, you're like, I would never do that in a million years. I think that's what is happening with art and content is like, people just want to see it uncut. Listen to this fucking podcast. I just burped. Do you think a network exec would have been like, can we edit the burp out? You're like, no, the guy's drinking. That's what makes this great.
No, that's what makes podcasts great, is that this is sort of the Wild West.
Bro,
I want mistakes to happen.
My favorite parts of podcasts are when they go off kilt and you just listen to like the guy go off mic and you're like, wait, where the fuck did he go? Like, I love that shit. Yeah. One of my favorite podcasts ever was like this guy telling this story about being in space, right? I think about this story. This guy went to space and he almost died. I forget what it was. I forget what show it was on. It was probably on one of the NPR type shows. It was this astronaut, and he was on the fucking phone with the guy. The guy was on the phone. It's got to be
like Freakonomics?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, so like that, something like that. One of those two. That or the Radio Lab. One of those two, right? This guy was on the fucking phone, and he told a story about being in space and having a hard time getting back into his space thing. And he was with a bunch of Russians, and he had a picture of his family, and his mask was fogging up. But he was on the fucking phone, and these two guys that were the hosts were listening to it on the phone, and they were on a stage. And I was on a treadmill, and I stopped, and I just stood as the belt moved with both my feet off, and I listened to this guy on a phone tell this story. And I was like, in my head, I go, any network exec was like, whoa, lose the phone. It doesn't sound right. It just sounds weird. It's not going to be good. You know what? Who can we get in studio? And you're like, no, this is the best story I've ever heard. I'm not doing it justice. You have to find it's about an astronaut. It's got to be on one of those two shows. An astronaut, and he's just telling the greatest story I've ever heard about him living in space and almost dying. And all I could think is how networks would have fucked that up. But there's no networks. It's just two guys doing a podcast, and this guy called on the phone. Oh, it's such a good fucking story.
And so how does this translate into what you're doing now with stand-ups? Because still you're doing a special on a stage, the same format that Eddie Murphy did. That's a
really great point. I tried. Well, first and foremost, I have to say that Netflix was kind enough to pay for me to make it. Netflix has a platform that's massive. You'll reach people that would never have seen you if you didn't do it on Netflix. But I'll tell you right now, if I didn't do it on Netflix, I wasn't doing it with any of the networks. I definitely wasn't doing it with Comedy Central. I definitely wasn't doing it with Showtime. I definitely wasn't doing it with HBO, simply because that is a dated format. To tune into something to watch it doesn't exist unless it's Game of Thrones for me, right? And even still, I don't watch Game of Thrones when it airs. I put it on DVR. Right. And the only reason I watch it is because I'm a grown man who grew up around appointment television. But I wasn't doing it. So then I thought, all right, so then what is the format of stand-up? How do we relay stand-up? I know that we had talked, me and Bill and Al and Tom and Ari had talked about, we have our own network, All Things Comedy. Do we simply release our specials on there and compete with Netflix? Take the biggest comics in the game, not saying that we're the biggest, but like aggregate some of our friends like Jim Gaffigan and say, let us release your special. Let us pay for you, Whitney, and we'll make it and we'll put it out. Then I thought, I like podcasts. I like that I can count every Thursday Marin comes out. I like that I can count on it. What if I did my stand-up hour special and I stopped working about an hour? What if I just said, I'm going to do material and release it once a week? Once a week, you can count on me giving you a bit that I've worked on. And then I space it out for an entire year and I put stuff online that way. What if I did a brand new 20-minute special, the way Netflix is doing 20-minute specials? What if I did a brand new 20-minute special once a month? And I promised you I got new material once a month. And then I was like, what if I just did the hour special, put it on YouTube? Because that's where I found Kevin Hart. I mean, I've known Kevin forever, but like I watched his special on YouTube. I watched Bill's specials on YouTube. I watched it on YouTube. So I started looking at it going like, what's a different way? You've seen a lot of guys try to do that, and it just hasn't worked. But I thought, what if you took
Louis C.K. sort of worked. He would put out a special just on his website.
Horace and Pete, I watched every episode.
He made millions of dollars on that.
Yeah. And I thought, what if you just did it that way? What if it's got to work? Like if people, like all people want to see is they just want to laugh. Like the machine story, a little sidebar. So like I did the Showtime special and then I misread my contract and I thought I could put up 4 clips, just 4 clips. I didn't realize it was 4 clips under 2 minutes each. So I put up 4 stories. I put up like 37 minutes of my Showtime special just on myself. Like I just uploaded it. And then because I did that, other people just ripped it and posted it everywhere. And so it got posted all over line. But man, if that machine...
I watch them on YouTube.
Yeah. If that machine story hadn't gone viral, if I hadn't posted it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this room right now. If I hadn't posted it and misread my contract, I would not be here right now. That is guaranteed. Is that people ripping it and putting it online created a fan base that were like, dude, I like your material, I like that machine story. So then I go, all right, so we know that works, right? We know that works. Why are we fishing in the hole that doesn't work anymore? Like, why are we going, why is it, no disrespect, but until Comedy Central changes their model of how they do put out specials, why is anyone putting a special out on Comedy Central? I mean, I did one.
I guess I'll tell you why. If you're a young comic, just for the legitimacy. So then you get a credit. Oh, you might have seen him last month on his own Comedy Central special. It's sort of like a virtue signaling of, okay, this guy's legit.
Yeah,
That's the only reason.
I think you just have to I just had a meeting with Travel Channel and they said, basically, whatever you want, we'll do. And I was like, okay. And so I called my agents and managers and I was like, what do we want? Like, because you get to go like, what do we want? And they were like, what do you want? I said, I want to own all the material. I want to own it all. I want to own it so I can put it out whenever I want. Because I've shot some amazing things for Travel Channel that no one's ever seen and no one ever will see because I don't own the material. And I was like, I want to own all the material. And they're like, they're not giving that to you. I said, well, that's the next deal I want. Like, I don't care about a paycheck. I want to own everything.
You know what you should do? You know what they should do? You should find just some obscure channel like channel 495.
I love that. Can I tell you, when they first told me about your podcast, I Googled you and I went, oh, this is the kind of brain I want to be around. Yeah, I should find fucking like Fuse Network.
Yeah, and then what you want is for them to air one episode and then cancel it, but you keep the digital rights and then you sell on iTunes. Yeah. And then after iTunes, you put it on YouTube. But then you make a lot on iTunes first and then on YouTube.
I should do a straight up production deal with a network that is failing.
Right, because they still get on iTunes needs a network.
Yeah.
But Travel Channel is like you're dealing with all the paperwork. With some obscure channel that is just like wants you, they'll say, "Oh, you want the digital rights? Yeah, we don't even sell anything on iTunes." And then you have then iTunes will feature you as new and noteworthy because you'll be popular.
Can I tell you? My brain goes, I wonder if there's some obscure loophole. You know how like Canada has to feature 10% or 20% of Canadian artists on TV?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some obscure loophole in like Japan where they're like they've got to make expatriate TV like 20 hours of it a week. And I moved to Japan and I start a production company in Japan and I make a sitcom in Japan and just own everything. Like that's a brilliant idea. I just want the money to make stuff. I want to come up with stupid ideas that I have and make them. Like something's burning. It's going very well online. I want to just make more shit like that.
I feel like though, if that's getting 1 million views and you're featuring products that you're using to cook and you've got like your friends, celebrities who all have audiences, there's got to be sponsors. Who sells your podcast ads?
I have a lady out of Chicago that does my podcast ads, but she isn't like no one has taken the reins of going like, let's plug these products into YouTube or videos the way that they have with podcasts. I think we're not there yet. Like I remember watching this guy, Mr. Ben Brown. He's one of the guys that inspired me to do a vlog. I did a vlog for like a year. And then I had to stop. It just was cannibalizing my life. But like, he was doing commercials for Audi. And his vlog, he was always working with Audi. Like he was in an Audi. He was doing, and in my head I thought, I hope to God someone was forethinking enough to go, yo man, if we hire this vlogger to do our ads, we're going to be in all his fucking vlogs. He's going to be showing our cars in all our vlogs. Like we won't have control over how it's represented, and I think that's part of the thing. But like I shot this thing for a Subaru one time for Travel Channel. That was the funniest thing I've ever done. It was making our cameraman laugh so hard. We were doing an ad for Subaru in Austin, and all we had to do is take the Subaru up and drive it up to a boat ramp, and then get out and go out and get in these kayaks. And obviously, our ad sales were there, and a lot of times that ad salesperson wasn't the most dialed in to like creativity. They were just like, they'd been given one note and they were there to relay it. And she said, so do me a favor, when you get out of the Subaru, just like, if you could like really express how much fun that ride was. And I was like, we're just pulling up to a boat ramp. She's like, I know, but like, if you could just be like something like just of how great that car is. And I was like, that's going to reek of like ad sales. And she goes, I know, but don't make it reek ad sales. Like just make like a nod of like, God, thank God we have a Subaru to pull up to this boat ramp. And do you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, I think I got you. And so there was a song by Kesha, Die Young. I feel your heart beat to the beat of a drum. Doom, doom, da, 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 da. And so you could never use music in Travel Channel. So I do the first take and Kesha's on and I'm like, fuck it. So I pull up in the Subaru and Kesha's blaring, and immediately everyone's like, no, we can't use Kesha. And I get out and I make love to the Subaru. I fuck it. I fuck it for like 30 seconds. I start with the gas tank. I work away to the front. No, I start with the hood, and then I work my way to the gas tank. And then I said, is that what you were thinking? Everyone's laughing. And then I go, just use that. Like, you realize that people will watch that.
Or even if they just put that on YouTube now.
Yeah. So one time we were in a pepper field in New Mexico, and I had to, they said, hey, I need you to pull up to the pepper field, but take your time with it. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we're going to really shoot some beauties of this, so take your time with it. And I drove for 10 minutes in a pepper field, and every time I got to them, I just would turn around and keep going. And I just was driving in circles in a pepper field. Everyone's howling, laughing. And I'm like, I gotta be honest with you. If we just showed the drive up to the pepper field, more people would watch that than whatever the fuck we've planned to shoot. Like, it's just so ridiculous. So part of me wants to find a sponsor that's like, yeah. Like, I'll tell you, one of the most viral things I ever did, Combos came out with a new flavor, right? This is just independent of everything. They came out with a new flavor, buffalo and blue cheese. Buffalo wings and blue cheese. I tried them and I fucking love them. I said, Combos, you changed my flavor palette. You just redefined it. And I was like, hey guys, let's take a second and help Combos come up with new flavors. And it went viral. It went viral to the point where Combos hit me up and they were like, dude, we don't know how to repay you. And I was like, boxes of Combos. So they sent me boxes of Combos, right?
That's great.
But what they couldn't control was what was making it fun. Like, they couldn't control that. They didn't come up with that in-house.
Because there's an authenticity. You can't come up with that in-house.
People are like, just weird combos. Whale and whiskey. And it was just going viral. And people were loving it, and they were laughing at it. But Combos couldn't have come up with that interior. Like, they couldn't have just been like...
See, I think you should do a special of you doing ads for companies that don't approve. And
so I tried that. So I did, there's Lindsay Pellis is a very famous Instagram model. She has a very viral video of her running in slow motion in a tank top and panties. And she's running in a field and she's not wearing a bra. And the tank top's like half cut. And I had her on my podcast and she said that video broke me. Like, it put me over the top. Everyone followed me from that. So then I reshot a very similar video of me running in my backyard in Hanes underwear, Fruit of the Loom underwear. And it was for Mother's Day. It was going to come on Mother's Day, and I ended it with Happy Mother's Day from Fruit of the Loom underwear. And I put it on there. And my lawyers and everyone was like, this is a horrible idea. We're going to get sued.
Oh my God, how can you get sued from that? You're allowed to say Fruit of the Loom?
No, but I can't say this is brought to you by Fruit of the Loom. Like, I couldn't say that. And they were like, just don't. So I just put Happy Mother's Day from Bert. But I thought it would be so fucking funny if people believed it was from Fruit of the Loom. Like, if people were like, this isn't even attractive. Like, people get upset over the dumbest fucking things. I got a fucking 5-page email the other day from a woman mad at me that I took my shirt off on my special because I ruined the chance of her being able to like me because she couldn't look at me with my shirt on. And I was like, well, then you don't like me. You just don't like me. Like, that's who I am. And then in the email, I spent a whole paragraph talking about how she was a nurse and she sees shirtless bodies. She sees obese bodies. It doesn't bother her. But for me to do that on my moment of telling, I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, like, no one's got a sense of humor about shit like that. And you gotta be willing to roll the dice and get sued to the fucking nines.
Your dad's a lawyer. You gotta roll the dice.
My dad would not find the Fruit of the Loom video funny at all. My dad would like, buddy, wait. My dad doesn't understand why. He goes, why don't you wear a fucking shirt? Why don't you just put on a coat? Put on a nice blazer with a tie. That's what a comic should look like. But yeah, he doesn't get the shirt off at all.
So, Bert, they're about to start an open mic in here.
Are you serious?
Yeah. This is open mic time.
What time?
At Stand Up New York.
I could hang out and do some. I got some new bits I'm working on.
Yeah, let's do an open mic.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, we'll just sit around and drink, and then. By the way, learned that lesson a long time ago. Do not drink on stage. Get hammered. I've had some of the worst sets of my life. Like, regrettable.
I used to come up on the stage drinking, and I would just the first 15, 20 seconds, I would just sit and drink. And then I would say to the audience, what, you guys don't drink at work? And that would break the ice.
Don't drink at work.
So
you guys don't drink at work? That's good.
I just needed to break the ice. That's always my hardest part.
Oh, yeah. I take my shirt off.
Yeah, you take your shirt off.
By
You have to
the
do
way, you have
something.
no fucking idea. Try it one night. Get up on stage
I'm
and rip
afraid.
your shirt off. And just watch the fucking crowd loses their mind. Like when I take my shirt off, it is like Rogan was in the back of the store the other night, and Burr was behind me, right? So Burr's about to go on. Rogan's in the back. He's watching.
Man, this is a stellar lineup.
And, oh, dude, that's the store right now is fucking on fire. And we had all done a show upstairs, and I had kept my shirt on. And I go on stage, and I take my shirt off. I do the set, have a good set. I come off, and Burr's the first one to see me. And he goes, so we only take this shirt off when it fucking matters, huh? And I go, what? And he goes, it got to be a important set. We take the shirt off, huh? And because it kills. Like the second you take it off. And then Rogan sees me, he goes, dude, I've never heard a group of people lose their mind that hard when you take your shirt off. And he goes, you're not in shape. Like it's not like Arnold out there. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's bizarre. Try it one night. Just take your shirt off. And it's the icebreaker. I'm telling you, I'll always take my shirt off just because the second you take it off, everyone's like, what the fuck is this? Like as opposed to like, meh, I'm not really sure about this. My only thing I haven't done, and I want to try this, is I want to do rip my shirt off in an all black room. Get up on stage, rip it off, and then start my material and not acknowledge it and just watch them be like, huh? But
all right, well, Bert Kreischer, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Secret Time is just released on Netflix. It's excellent. It's one of my favorite specials out there now. And hope you come on again. I would love
to. I would love to.
Yeah, let me know next time you're in New York, or I'll
definitely
give you a call when I'm in LA.
Yeah,
and,
I would love to have you on my podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm in LA. Yeah, whenever you're in LA, just text me. I'll give you my number, and I would love to have you on. I would love to have you on.
Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power, so how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/advance. That's oracle.com/advance. oracle.com/advance.